Dwight, I have had failure. I have been at the bottom. I've been knocked down. And one of the things that always gets me through those moments is realizing that it's temporary. It is temporary, it's not permanent, and there's only one direction to go when you're at the bottom, and that is up. Move ahead. Keep going.
Welcome to Give a Heck. I am your host, Dwight Heck, and for much of my life, lived my life in quiet desperation, wondering how I was going to pay the bills, take vacations, save for retirement, and one day wondering if I would get off the hamster wheel of life and have purpose. A life that most of society lives, which takes us to work, then home, then repeat, and pays us hopefully enough just to survive. The harsh truth that most live with more months than money and have no idea how to live life on purpose, not by accident. This ensures the mass majority are living not just financially broke, however, emotionally and mentally as well due to financial pressures. In each episode, I will introduce you to thoughts, ideas, and guests that can help you to learn how you too can live life on purpose, not by accident.
What does it take to rebuild when everything falls apart? Not once, not twice, but across 8 companies, 4 decades, a cancer diagnosis, and a life that has never once followed the script anyone would have written for it. Welcome back to the Give a Heck podcast. I'm your host, Dwight Heck, here to help you live life on purpose and not by accident. My guest today describes his life as a movie about resilience, reinvention, and grit, all wrapped in a smile and a wicked sense of humor. I already like him. He also describes himself as a customer service fanatic, which either means he is an absolute joy to work with or completely unbearable to be behind in a returns line. We will find out. Chris Shurian grew up in Southern California, was dropped into rural Montana at 12 years old, trading freeways and sunshine for dirt roads and winters that have opinions. Joined the LDS Church at 19, served a mission, in Brazil, and then spent nearly 4 decades building companies in remodeling, construction, manufacturing, real estate development, foreign investment, hospitality, restaurants, and finally retail. He led a $15 million construction company, developed a Water's Edge resort at Bear Lake, and founded Cody's Gastro Garage restaurant. He has been a finalist for the Ernst & Young's Entrepreneur of the Year, was named to Utah Business Magazine's 40 Under 40, and has awards and scars to back everything up he teaches. He has also survived cancer, finished 2 Ironman triathlons. That is 146 miles each. Or for the rest of the world, like us Canadians, that's 226 kilometers.
Yeah.
Just to give you some education. Navigated a significant spiritual transition after 25 years in the LDS Church and built 8 companies across his career, successfully exiting 4 of them. He calls himself an 8 times founder, and we will get into what that number actually represents. Today, he's the founder of Bootstraps and Battle Scars and the creator of Founders Exchange, where he coaches entrepreneurs one-on-one, builds mastermind communities where founders can finally drop the armor and get real, and delivers keynotes and workshops for groups and teams on leadership, decision-making, and building with intention when the pressure is real. Chris, welcome to the Give a Heck podcast. Thanks for agreeing to come on and share with us some of your life journey.
Awesome. Thanks, Dwight. That's quite an intro. I don't know. I don't think I wrote that. You wrote that, didn't you? You borrowed
Yes.
some of my, yeah, that was awesome. I appreciate that.
Of course, you have to borrow, right? You have to
Yeah.
take information. You have to do research, right? So, like I said, I used your website, we talked about before hitting record. I used all the service information that was there, and I used Dr. Google to find out more info, right? That's
Oh
just the way
boy.
it should be.
Yeah.
And, at the end of the day, and then I'm that paranoid, I take all of it and I put it into a service to make sure that it's going to flow properly, that I haven't missed something that was integral with the flow. And yeah, an average podcast takes me 6 hours of my life. And
That's
people say,
impressive. Not a
why do
lot of
you,
guys will do that. That's
I
impressive.
do it because it's a passion, as I mentioned to you, right? I want to brilliant people like you. And I imagine our conversation is going to be through the roof. So, listeners and viewers on YouTube, buckle up, get ready for Chris and all the fabulous information he's going to share. So, one of the things I focus on, Chris, is a person's origin story. It's people just do not take it serious enough. Our origin, and it may not be indicative of our future, but it leaves signs. It can be an indicator of success, failure. It can be an indicator of complacency, and people really don't look back at their origin and say, "Oh, this happened when I was younger, and this what made me as a young adult." I thought back, "Wow, I don't want to be like that. What experienced from my family, friends." I want to do different. Or my life was great as a child, but then when I hit the harsh reality of it, my life was great because I was sheltered about everything. You understand what I mean? So
Oh
do
yeah.
me a favor. Share whatever you feel comfortable as far back as you want to go, as long as you want to talk about your origin, and share that with the listeners, please.
Dwight, I had a pretty colorful childhood growing up. As you mentioned, I was born in Southern California. My parents divorced when I was young, and it was kind of an ugly divorce. I was 8 years old, and I didn't really realize what was going on at the time. But all of a sudden, we moved into a different house with my mom, and my dad didn't move in with us, and that was weird, right? You just don't understand what's going on, and it was kind of an ugly divorce. So my dad wasn't really great at supporting my mom, even though my dad was very well off financially. He was had a very successful career in Los Angeles. So we struggled. My mom was raising four kids and she was struggling. It was tough on her. So I was kind of left to my own devices. I mean, by the time I turned 12, I'd been brought home by the police a couple times. I had run away from home. Now, I say run away from home. I mean, I ran across the street and went out into the field for a few hours and I didn't last very long. In fact, a good friend of mine, he was telling me his mom was from Australia, and when she was 13 years old, she ran away from home, got on a ship, and landed in San Francisco, California. Can you imagine? I
Wow.
mean, that's running away, right? But and so I had an interesting childhood. And then when I was 12 years old, my dad decided to retire from his career in Los Angeles and move to Montana. And I'll tell you what, that was hard. He took me. I was his oldest son. Left the rest of the kids with my mom. And man, I landed. Not only did I land in small town, rural Montana, but our house was 13 miles from town on a dirt road. And you've probably driven through Montana plenty of times. You know what it's all about. And that was a thing. But I'll tell you what, it was great. I lived there for 5 years. I did eighth grade in high school in Montana. At the time, you don't appreciate what you have when you're a teenager. But those 5 years in Montana were impactful on my life. Like I did things growing up in Montana that I could have never done in California. I got away with things in Montana that probably would have landed me in jail in California. I mean, my life was significantly changed because my dad fell in love with Montana, retired from his very successful career in radio, actually, and moved me up there. And I appreciate that about him. Now, my dad was a hard man. He was military, grew up in a very structured, disciplined German household in, Massachusetts, and he was tough. He was hard. He always wanted the best for me. He always told me how much he loved me, but man, he could discipline me. And so I wasn't super close to my dad, but he also, taught me from a young age that I could do whatever I wanted to do with my life. I could be whatever I wanted to be. And as a kid, you don't appreciate that. As a kid, you're kind of like, oh yeah, whatever, Dad. Yeah, okay, Dad. But I think, being who I am today that's part of me. That's part of who I am today was my growing up in California, moving to Montana and experiencing that. And I wouldn't trade it for anything in the world. And I've been totally blessed because of that. In fact, what you'll learn about me as we're talking is I look back on every experience I've had in my life, my business experience. I've had my ups, I've crashed, I've been back up, I've crashed. I've been sued by the SEC. You probably ran into that while you Googled my name. I mean, I've been hammered, but I've had great success. But you know what? I don't regret any of it. I don't wish it hadn't happened to me because that's who I am today, is I am the result of all those experiences. And so, yeah, origin story, yeah, I love it. I'm a huge fan of it. It built me, and here I am. Totally, here I am.
And that's, I smile about all of this because there's so many commonalities. And at the end of the day, things happen for us, not to us. So every moment that you had, and you talk about some resilient moments that you had to be resilient, led to the fact of more success, and you got past those character building moments, and that's fantastic. No matter what happened, and you talked about when I Googled you and what I probably found out, that's just one person going through a hiccup or a character building moment in life. That shouldn't take away. So many people in society use that to take away from all the good, right? They focus on the negative instead of they focus on the positive, that you got through it, you continue to climb in life, you didn't stay camped, and you use that as a reset, right? It's amazing. Like you talked about the fact 12 years of age, right? Your dad moves you away, German structure, military. My dad wasn't military, but both my parents are first generation Canadian. Their parents and from German, like, so I'm German heritage as well. And it's just the commonality of how when you were talking about some of the things, my dad was very harsh, but he was also, he loved me. I knew he loved me. We weren't that close growing up. Very successful business owner. And, I learned a lot from him. I don't think I really tuned in, like you were saying, until I got older, how much my dad actually did for me, how much he
Hmm.
educated me about how to deal with people, customer service interaction, how to deal with different, because he owned a farm equipment dealership. He's still alive. He's 85, retired, closed down a long time ago. He literally, I learned a lot. Learned how to deal with the difficult. I learned how to take somebody's anger and not take it personal and redirect. I didn't realize how many skills I was learning as a young teenager into adulthood until I moved away from the small community that he was in. Went from 12,000 to over a million population city. It was a shock. So you went shock to a smaller. I went from smaller to the shock, and I've been here ever since.
Yeah, we
Right.
traded
So
places. We traded places for sure.
so
Yeah,
but there's definitely commonalities, right? But
yeah.
it's good to know that no matter what, though, there'll be more people in your life that'll look at that hiccup, that blip of what you went through with I think you said it was the FCC.
SEC. Yeah.
Yes, yes, that are gonna use that as a whatever. There's a
Hmm.
hiccup in his life. What all good did he do? Right?
Yeah,
Let's not, right?
yeah, and the hard part is, just talking about that SEC situation is
Yeah,
when they feel like they want to come at you, they issue a press release, and the press release is bad. Like they put all the allegations. Well, after you go through years of fighting it and years of responding to their allegations, and then all of a sudden you're found clear of all those allegations, where's the press release? There is no press release, right?
I know.
The
Yeah.
local news company, they don't want to talk about the fact that you beat them. They don't want to talk about that. So that was, yeah, that was a moment. And I
What
think
does it
that,
tell you though about society?
oh,
They feed off the negativity of life. They don't want to hear the positives of Chris. They want to hear the
right.
negative. They want
Yeah,
to throw you under a bus so that they can let their life, which most cases, if you open it up, they hate their life. They're living a facade. So it's easier for them to hate on everybody else.
that's right. That's it. People get some sort of joy out of watching people fail and watching them get hurt, whatever it is. I don't know, but I try not to. Like I said, it stung. It was a little bit painful. There were some relationships that went away. There was even banks, Dwight, that closed my account. I had banks close my account because the SEC was investigating me, and I thought, you have got to be kidding me. Well, I don't want to do business with that bank anyways, right? So there's things like that that happen. It
Trust
happened.
me.
What am I going to do?
Try
I'm going to
doing
keep
what I
going.
do for a living, and the regulators that have me under a microscope. Trust me, 25 years of doing it, they can be a blessing for certain circumstances and a curse
Mhm.
on the other side, but they never admit their wrongdoing, right?
No, never. Yeah, you're right.
I've been investigated by people that complained. It comes back, you're not, everything's fine. Okay, great. You gonna apologize for some of the ignorant shit you said to me over the last while? You
Yeah.
assumed. this isn't this supposed to be innocent until proven guilty? No, you're
Yeah,
guilty until
yeah,
proven innocent. In Canada, under our regulators, you're guilty until you prove your innocence, which is similar to what you're talking about. It's just
yeah, yeah.
it
And
is what it is.
you want to hear the better part. This is how ridiculous it was. Is I found out they were investigating me. They were calling all of my vendors and subcontractors who I've been paying over the last year and a half, and to ask them what I paid them for. And so people started calling me and saying, Chris, the SEC just called me to ask me what you paid me and what you paid me for. And so my attorney and I got together. We called the SEC. So, anyways, we're going through this process of, okay, tell me what you're looking for. And it's like, well, we don't know what we're looking for, but someone reported you to us, so we're going to investigate. And I said, okay, well, what do you want? I'll give you whatever you want, and let's figure it out. It's almost like if the sheriff showed up at your house, Dwight, and said, I'm here to write you a ticket. And you said, okay, for what? And he says, I don't know. What was the last time you sped? And you said, well, I sped yesterday. I went like 10 over. Okay, I'm gonna write you a ticket for that. That was the feeling I had, right? That's how ridiculous it
Mhm.
was. So we went a couple months, and they couldn't tell me what they're investigating. So I opened up my books, I opened everything up. They started looking through things, they started picking out things, and then they came back to me and said, well, we found a few things that we want more answers on. I said, great, what is it? So they gave me a list. And it was about, they gave me a list of things they wanted me to look into. Well, as I'm looking into it, they came to my attorney and said, hey, why don't we just talk to Chris about settling? Like, let's just settle. And my attorney said, well, you don't know Chris very well, but he's not going to settle for a dollar because, for one, you haven't made any solid accusations against him. So we don't even know what you want us to answer, and we don't know what that looks like. And my attorney said, okay, but let's settle. If you have something on him, bring it to us. Let's talk about it. They came to me with $6 million in misappropriated investor funds. Great. They gave me the list, a partial list, and I started working on it. Well, as I'm working on it, the attorney calls my attorney and says, hey, what's Chris going to do? And my attorney said, well, he's putting together answers for all these accusations you made. And they said, okay, well, do you think he'll have it to us by like the end of the quarter? And this is 2 weeks away from the end of the quarter. And my attorney says, well, he's already given you some information, and we're waiting for you to give us some clarification so he can give you more answers. So, no, we're not going to have it done. They said, okay, well, the quarter's coming up, and we have a quota. And I either have to have him agree to a settlement, or we're going to have to file charges against him. We're going to have to file a lawsuit against him because I have a quota to meet by the end of the quarter.
Oh, I
And
hope
my
that was recorded.
and my attorney said, he said, you really just said that to me? Well, what do you think? And he said, well, first of all, I'll talk to Chris, but there's no way in hell he's going to settle. And Dwight, the last day of the quarter, they filed that civil lawsuit. They issued the press release, and it went out. And then I had to go fight it through court. Had to spend more money with attorneys.
And
But
you can't get
that's
them to
why.
pay your legal fees either.
Nope.
If
Nope. Nothing. Nope. I've
but
spent
but
so much money on that.
I'm so glad you shared this because anybody listening or watching, government overreach is ridiculous. I don't care if it's even if they say they're an independent body outside the government, they're given too much power
They are.
to ruin people's lives,
Yeah.
right?
Now, yeah, let's go after there's a lot of bad guys out there. There's a lot of bad guys, right?
Oh yeah, let's go
Let's go
after
after
somebody
them.
that's good.
Yeah, but here's a guy and here's the other thing. My investors, Dwight, I had all my investors were whole. Like none of my investors were complaining. In fact, when my investors found out there was an investigation, they're like, "Well, why? We're still invested. We still have our investment. We're still in the deal." And I'm like, "Yeah, exactly." And then when I'd ask the SEC, I say, "Okay, well, what if I wrote you a check for that $6 million? What happens to that money?" Oh, you know, it goes to cover this, that, and the other thing. I said, so you're saying I misappropriated investor funds and you want me to pay you $6 million, but that $6 million is not going to go back to the investors? Like I thought, well, where does that make sense? So
Yeah.
yeah, the whole thing was a screwy mess.
Thank you for sharing and thank you for sticking up for yourself because so many people take the easy way. They buckle,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah. And
I
then and then after 4 years of dealing with that, it came down to $1 million now. They wanted $1 million because They just couldn't stand the idea of me
Of
walking
losing,
away,
of
not
them
paying
losing.
anything.
Yeah.
Right. And even though I gave them verification of every expense, every dollar, I think I told you I owned a little home in Mexico. They accused me of using investor funds to buy the home. That was so easy. I showed a paper trail. I said, okay, investors invested in a project. I ran the project. We sold the project. Investors got their money back. And I used my portion of the proceeds that I earned to buy a house in Mexico. Oh, okay. Well, yeah, just like that. Stupid stuff like that.
But they got to justify their existence in a job they probably hate.
Yeah.
Let's be real.
Yeah.
And if you're somebody that works for them and is listening, or somebody on the Canadian side listening, the reality of life is I'm a person that studies human behavior, and you don't like your job if you're in that job. Most of you
Yeah.
don't. And
Yeah.
if you do like it, then you're kind of sadistic. But
Yeah.
anyway,
Yeah. So the moral of that story is, first of all, you don't ever want to get sideways with the SEC, the FTC. Just don't. Just avoid it. Keep it
yes.
squeaky clean. What happened to me is I terminated an employee. He was very disgruntled. He wasn't qualified for the job. He had access, and he reported me to the SEC. And it was just a total vendetta. Just don't get sideways with him because it's a hard fight to win. Even if you're
And,
right, it's a hard fight to win.
wow, and even not realizing that what kind of a government organization takes a disgruntled employees and puts themselves through that. Why would they do that without having simple conversations? It's so much bureaucracy. But anyway,
Yeah.
we'll go on from there. Thank
Yeah.
you for sharing that, though, because it's going to help somebody listening. I
I
guarantee it.
hope so. I hope so.
I want to talk a little bit. You joined the LDS Church at 19, served a mission in Brazil at 21, and spent 25 years as a committed member before life and growth led you to somewhere different. That kind of transition touches everything: your identity, your community, your family, and your faith. What was that journey like? Can you share that with us, please?
Yeah. That was hard. I say that joining the LDS church and going on a mission for the church were two of the best things that I ever did. It gave me a path, it gave me some direction. I mean, I was 18, 19 years old and I was kind of floundering, wasn't sure what I was doing in life. And so it gave me a very, very solid direction. It taught me a lot. That church teaches, like a lot of churches, there's a lot of good that comes from that. There's a lot of great teachings. They teach you how to be a man. They teach you how to be a husband. They teach you how to be a father. There's principles that are wholesome and worthy to follow. So I learned a lot. But then for me, over time, I felt like, as is all religion, I don't think it's one size fits all. That's my personal belief. And so I started analyzing my relationship with God, who I believe in, and I started really thinking about that relationship with God, and I felt like my definition of my relationship with God was different than the church was teaching. Now, I'm not saying the church was teaching wrong. I'm not saying that. But I think we all have our own way of believing. We have our own faith. We have our own idea of what God is. And so my idea just happened to be a little bit different. So for me, it was like, okay, I'm going to take all those things I learned and I'm going to move in my own direction. So for me, it's almost like I graduated out of that religion into my own belief system. And, my belief system now is that God is my heavenly Father and He loves me. He loves all of us, and His love is perfect. And His love is the word just slipped my mind, but His love for us is perfect. And then I started thinking about how I love my kids and how much I love my kids. And I'm not a perfect human. My love is sometimes conditional and God's love is unconditional. And I thought, well, God just puts us on this earth to learn lessons, to scrape our knees, to stub our toes. And He's got His fingers crossed that we're going to come out of it at the end. And that's how it's going to be. So anyways, I changed my belief in that, and that encouraged me and motivated me to move on from the church. And so I'm still a big fan. I'm still grateful for my experience there. Um, I still support it. I'll defend it. There's a lot of misinformation that goes around about the LDS Church, and it's just that it's misinformation. People don't understand it, and it was a part of my life. It was a chapter of my life, and now I'm moving in a different direction, and that's okay.
Yeah, it is okay. And it just goes to show you, those listening and watching, Chris is a person that is taking the good, bad, and indifferent and choosing to focus on the good, whether or not he left LDS church or not. It, it, I treat religion like an organized religion as a buffet. My faith as a Catholic, I people say, well, why don't you go to another church? Because I don't need to. I take what I like, I leave what I don't. I'm very close to, I volunteer at my church. I do different things within the church community. I have a select group of, even the priest knows my belief system and how
Mm-hmm.
and sometimes if it's not so cut and dried, you'd have more people in your churches, whether or not it's a Catholic church, a Christian church, Protestant, I don't care what it is, LDS, Jehovah Witness, you'd have
Yeah.
more people if you were more understanding, if you were more, oh, let's talk about this. Oh, okay. We still love you. Let's have a hug.
Yeah.
You don't necessarily, you should. They might say you should believe this, but you don't. And we're okay with that because you're still plugged in. You're still part of the community. You're still a kind human being. You're still empathetic. You still want to serve. And I have so many people in my lifetime, Chris, that jump from one church to another church, just looking for what they it fits into their, that square peg, round hole kind
Mm-hmm.
of
Mm-hmm.
circumstance. And it's just
Yeah.
sometimes you just have to do you, do
And
you
and
the way
and
you
that's
want to
a
do you.
a great point because during that transition, I had a mentor in my life, and he explained it the same way you did, but he said, "Look, go to church on your terms, and maybe your terms aren't exactly what the perfect LDS member looks like, but that's okay. If you can go on your terms and be comfortable there, then do it." And just like you said, there's things about even your church that hit the nail on the head, and there's some things that you're like, fine, then just leave that alone and go focus on what works for you. And I think, and I agree with you 100% on that. And I don't think every religion has it perfect, but there's a lot of good that comes from it. And if you can learn to
Absolutely.
go on your terms and go take the good from it and just apply it to your life how you want, yeah, there's nothing wrong with that.
Absolutely. And for those of my show that are God fearing, that's fine too. You
Yeah,
worship
yeah,
nature, you worship whatever, I don't care. All I want from you is you to be kind. I want you to be empathetic. I want you to be tenacious about giving. I want you to be tenacious about giving yourself grace and giving others grace. And like you were talking about interpretation of how people interpret us, right? And how they reflect on who we are or they judge us. I always tell people just because you step into a church doesn't make you a good person. I know a lot of evil people that go to church, not necessarily my church, but in my lifetime, right? They're always tossing God's name around, but yet they turn around and they gossip, destructive gossip. They create challenges for others that don't need to be there. They don't know how to walk away because some other person or entity, part of me, not called God, the devil's got a hold of them, right?
yeah, yeah,
So I tell people just, I don't care what you want to worship. I don't care if you go to church. Always talk to me with respect. I'll do the same. Be kind, I'll be kind. You want to challenge me? Great. Just do it in a kind fashion. Don't attack. Because I
yeah.
coach people on it and I still coach myself on it because I'm, like you said, Christ was like God himself had it is infallible. We are not.
No, we're not. Far from it.
So
Yeah.
thank you
And
thank you.
and just a simple, we'll stay on religion for just one more second,
Sure,
but
absolutely. Go for it. Say
but
whatever you want, brother.
in the Bible we're taught the golden rule. Do unto others as you'd have them do unto you. I mean, if we could even just live that simple philosophy, how much different would the world be, right? Just do unto others as you would have them do unto you. I mean, that kind of
Unfortunately,
covers the whole gamut.
look at the world stage right now. Do they follow that?
Yeah, well,
I'm not saying any specific country. I'm talking
yeah.
all the countries of the world.
No.
Every government.
People.
Do they
To the
treat
government.
their people
Yeah.
they treat their people like that? Do they treat their outside neighbors like that, neighboring countries or their trading partner? No. And you get what you sow. Initially, I laugh when people say, well, my brute force, the way I always get what I want. Do you really? Karma exists, right? It really
Hmm.
does. Whether or not you believe in karma, the universe comes back and bites you in the ass. It may not be 5 days, it could be 5 years or 20 years, but something's going to happen in your life that was a direct correlation of your behavior, in my opinion, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Success
Yeah.
leaves clues, but success always wants a price too at specific
Yeah.
times in your life, right?
Yep.
Yeah, we'll get off that part of the
Yeah.
soapbox. Yeah,
There we go.
we're having a great conversation though, right? It goes from one thing to the next, which is what it should be. This is life. Chris is laying it out, right? Hopefully that people listening and are watching, you're actually taking this to heart, right? If you have to listen to it a second time, go to my show notes page and read the unedited show notes. You can read, or pardon me, unedited transcript and read the summaries I put in for this episode. Don't let this escape you. If you even got a little bit of a seed in you that's starting to sprout, keep on watering it, right? And that's what I think this episode can do for you. Anything else you want to add before we go on to the next?
No, I think we covered that. Yeah, that was awesome. I enjoyed that. Yeah.
Well, me too. Thank you for everything you're sharing. I appreciate your vulnerability. 8 companies, 4 exits, and what the numbers don't tell us, right? That's what I want to get into next. You call yourself an 8 times founder, 8 companies built, 4 successfully exited. Before we get into that lesson, I want to understand what that journey actually looked like. What does 8 companies in one lifetime mean in practice of life?
Yeah. Well,
Because you shared some of it just as a side note. You did share a little bit, but I want more
yeah.
details.
Dwight, being a lifetime serial entrepreneur, I actually coined a term that I use in some of my keynote presentations, but I consider myself an entrepaholic. It's fun because everyone can relate to that word, right? Anyone who's an entrepreneur, when you say entrepaholic, they all roll their eyes, they laugh, they know exactly what you're talking about. And so when my first my first company was construction related, and I was a general contractor. I really liked working remodeling. That was my thing. I really loved it. I got into remodeling. It just started off as kind of a thing, and then I just fell in love with it. And I really felt that if I could bring a level of professionalism into the general contracting world, I might have something because, contractors kind of get a bad rap. They don't return phone calls. They don't show up on time. They tell you it's going to cost $100 and it costs $200. They tell you it's going to be done Tuesday and then 2 weeks later it's almost done. I mean, contractors have a bad rap. So I felt like if I could bring a level of professionalism in and treat my customers like they want to be treated, and it did. It worked. I had great success. I start off just with me, then I start off with 2 guys, and then that just grew and grew and grew. And within, let's see, that was in 1996, and by 2007 or 2008, I had about 50 employees. I had the construction company that specialized in remodeling. I had a construction company that built high-end custom homes. I had a high-end custom cabinet shop, and I had a electrical service company. And so there's 4 of them right there, right? And the reason why I did that is because I was doing a lot of kitchen remodeling. I was building really nice homes, and I had other cabinet companies that would build cabinets for me, but I thought, I'm going to start a cabinet shop. I met a guy who had worked at a cabinet shop, and I said, hey, let's go open a cabinet shop and let's provide cabinets for all of our projects. And not only that, we'll start doing cabinets for other people. And that's how that started. That was my little, shiny object. Here's an opportunity. Let's go get it. That's how that happened. And so not only did I have those 4 companies, but I was also doing real estate development. So I was buying land, turning it into a little neighborhood, selling the lots or whatever. And in down here in Utah for '06, '07, the land values were just going through the roof. So you could buy a piece of land and 2 weeks later you could sell it and double your money. It was ridiculous, right? So everyone's doing it. And so I was not only doing my 4 companies, but I also had this real estate development. By the time 2008, 2009 came around, I'm not sure what happened up in Canada, but down here, it was a pretty gnarly recession. Banks are closing. Everything's going to, can I say, hell in a handbasket,
Oh, sure,
right? Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah.
And I was extended. I was leveraged because when you're an entrepreneur, that shiny object is right there, and you're reinvesting. So I built a $1.6 million spec home that I built and then was going to sell and make a bunch of money on. I bought, $900,000 piece of land that I was going to turn into a neighborhood and sell for $2 million. I mean, I'm leveraged. Everything I've got is out. And all of a sudden the recession hit and it hurt. It pulled the rug out from underneath me. Now, fortunately, the cabinet shop was awesome. It was worth money. I sold it, had an exit. It was great. The electrical company, it was doing great. I sold it. I made some money. I had an exit. The construction company, I sat down my general manager and my superintendent and said, "Hey, it's all hands on deck. It's all every man for themselves. Take the company, go to work, feed your family." So for me, that's how that happened. I was fortunate enough that here's a lesson I learned. Okay, here's a lesson I learned. When you're making lots of money, you're allowed to buy toys, right? Why not? You have a cabin up in the mountains. You have a houseboat down Lake Powell. You have classic cars. I love classic cars. You can see behind me a
Yeah.
Hot Rod magazine. I had toys. I had things, but had a boat, had all these things. But I always paid cash for whatever luxury item I had. I probably could have had $100,000 boat, but I paid cash. So I bought, a $50,000 boat because I was paying cash. So I was very smart that way. So when the recession hit and things were going to pot, I could sell the boat and bring in cash and support my family. I could sell the Corvette, the classic Corvette, and bring in and if it was a fire sale, that was okay because at least I was getting cash. I had friends that had really nice stuff, but they had loans on everything. They were stuck. They couldn't fire sale anything because they owed more money on it than it was worth. So I was very fortunate to have done that. And that was a principle that was very important to me at the time. And so that saved me. And so that got me through the recession. I did have to file bankruptcy. I could only do so much, and I had to do that, which is it's hard, but it's there for a reason, and I needed that protection for me to rebuild, and I did. And so I rebuilt. I focused more on real estate development. I started building a commercial project with condominiums and hotels, and and that's when I got into the restaurant business. But that's me. That's my entrepreneur spirit. Is like I see an opportunity and I go after it. And then, as I'm doing that, something else comes up and I pivot or I do it simultaneously. So there's many times in my life where I've had several different businesses going at once, and sometimes that worked and sometimes it didn't. But uh, but that's kind of a little bit behind how I got to founded 8 different companies, had 4 exits, and then had a couple that were kind of like that didn't work out so hot. So we probably need to just not do that anymore. The restaurant business, my last exit was in the restaurant business. I had 3 restaurants at one point, and we ended up selling selling a building that the restaurant was in, and we closed the restaurant. And then I ended up closing another restaurant because it was just failing. And then I was able to sell the third unit, and that's an exit. And I had an exit. When you put in this much money and take out and sell it for this much, you know, on paper it doesn't look so good, but it's an exit. It's an exit. I walked out of that deal with money in my pocket. So yeah, that's how that works. And I've had some good exits. I've made some money. I've flipped some deals. It's been fun. It's been quite a journey, that's for sure. But I've had my ups and
But
downs.
that's the journey of life, though. Just from what you've shared and from what I've read about you in the last 24 hours and researched, you have something that's very unique as serial entrepreneurs. Most people don't give it enough credit. You have a superpower called tenacity, another
Oh yeah,
superpower called resilience,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
At
Hmm.
most, there's so many people in my life, and it breaks my heart. They have so much potential. Potential does not pay bills, though. They have so much potential. They have one failure, and they slither back into a shell, and they never ever try again.
Hmm.
Those listening or watching, put a band-aid on your boo-boo and move forward.
Yeah.
Success, it could be right around the corner. Light doesn't bend around the corner, and neither can you. So keep on going and then get to the corner and look around. Wow, oh, there's successes. But don't give up on yourself. Everybody's worthy. And it doesn't have to be about the fact that you're searching for that $1 million deal, that thing that's going to make you a multi-millionaire. It can be just about wanting to service and take care of your family and have enough to save first, spend later. That's the best type of financial advice I could give you. Learn to save, live off the difference. Chris did that very intentionally, buying a $50,000 boat. How many people do that? When I bought my first boat, I sold it back in 2023. I bought it in 2014. I could have bought a new boat. I bought a used boat. I bought
Yeah.
something that could pull around my kids in a tube. It could, and then my grandkids, and we could go and fish if we wanted to out of it. We could have fun on the lake, and it was an adventure. It wasn't about the fact of having all the fancy, shiny bling. It's about having that opportunity to say, "Hey, let's meet at this lake. Hey, Dad, Grandpa rented this cabin. I did it for years. Come on out. I'm going to be out there for 7, 8 days. You can stay over a few nights. I've got a boat launch because I used to rent the same cabin all the time. I had a boat launch so I could keep my boat out on the water and just, it was, it's experiences. You don't have to have the shiniest bling. You don't need to impress the neighbor. You just need to live a consistent, happy life where you can avoid as much as possible shock. But when shock happens, like it did with Chris, he still had an exit, right? That is the message you need. Don't always have the best. Don't leverage your life for personal toys that lose value so quickly, right? That you really can't flip because now you owe more than it's worth on the market.
Yep.
So thank
Yep.
you for sharing that. And to your 2008 comment, that affected the whole world.
Yeah.
It did not just affect what most people don't realize, and probably because my largest listening population is in the United States,
Hmm.
then Canada, then Europe, even Russia listens to my podcast, Ukraine.
Nice. Nice.
Not every episode, but once in a while I get a smile on my face because it says, "Oh, you had this much percentage in Ukraine." I'm going, "Oh my gosh, they're going through a war and they're listening to my podcast. Good for them, maybe."
That's
Right?
awesome. Let's give them some
But
hope.
yeah, give them some hope. Maybe they just like me. Maybe they think I'm goofy and it makes them smile. I don't know
It
who.
might be your haircut. It might be your haircut,
Yeah,
actually.
exactly. Like I tell my grandkids, okay, if you're gonna touch my one little granddaughter, she's 6, and she likes touching my head. I say, make sure you make a wish. She goes, "What do you mean, Grandpa?" So I explained to her. I said, "Well, there's this thing called Buddha, and people have believed for years that if you rub the belly of
Yeah.
a, you make a
Yeah.
wish." So
Yeah.
you rub my head, make sure you're making a wish. And now she says that to me. I started teaching her that when she was 3. She's in grade 1 now, and she's 6, right?
That's awesome. Yeah, that's
Um,
awesome.
Life is you can't take it too serious. But the tenacity nature of you is the way that our country was during the 2008 crash. You probably don't realize this, but Canada, you can do the research, has the strongest banking system in the world. It is absolutely the strongest banking system in the world. We never had one bank falter. It was all
Wow.
set up by the government set it up that way. Our current prime minister is the guy who was hired by the government to do that. He ran the Bank of Canada, then he ran the
Hmm.
Bank of England. Very, very smart economist. He did a lot of good things. Whether do I like everything? No, but he's a business person. He did things smart, so much so that your banking system, we went in and bought in the fire sale. Two of our largest banks went down and bought between the two of them close to approximately 1,000 different branches
Yeah.
of two different
Yeah.
banks. TD America Trade, guess who they are? That's Canadian.
Oh, okay. Yeah, there was some opportunities, that's for sure.
That's Canada. Ameritrade's not a small company, TD Ameritrade. Then you look at Bank of Montreal went down there too, which is the first bank that was ever in Canada. It started a couple hundred years ago. They went out and bought. And I'm not saying that to make it look bad. You can put things in place to protect yourself. And our country did that. And now there's many countries that have modeled after that to protect their citizens from a collapse in the housing market or a collapse in the energy market. Tomorrow something could happen again. So we also need to shore up our own personal investments. And you've proven that that's possible, right?
Yeah.
Yes, you had to
Yeah.
go into bankruptcy, but you still had an easier time of it than other people. I know American friends of mine, and we have relatives down there too that, yeah, gone, lost everything. They were leveraged too much. They didn't see the forest for the trees.
Yeah.
right?
And it's easy to go look back now and see, okay, man, had I not done this or not done that or not done this, I could have survived that even better. But that's not a game. Hindsight is always 2020. So we can't do
Exactly.
anything back, but you can take that knowledge looking forward and say, okay, let me prepare myself differently. So if it happens again, I'm even in a better spot.
Exactly. So out of all that stuff, is there any, like, there's a few things that have happened. Is there any one specific failure throughout that whole process to where you are today that really was that aha moment, that oh my gosh moment for you?
Oh man. I wouldn't say there is one particular failure. I think that's an interesting question, but I think where I'm at today is a result of so when I came out of 08, 09 and I went into my next business, it was small. I didn't have a lot of employees and I really enjoyed that. I really liked that. And then all of a sudden, I was sitting there operating this business and it was going well. We're doing well. And I remember just being me. And and I thought, why would I want to go back to when I had 50 employees and every 2 weeks a gigantic payroll and how much stress that caused. And that was an aha moment. But I fell back into that same trap. I started growing the next business. I started building the next business. We opened restaurants, we opened a spa, we opened retail, we opened hotels and condos. Next thing you know it, where am I? I'm right back at that stressful employees, payroll, the whole thing. And so I think I had that aha moment once, but I got sucked back into the old ways. And now, where I'm at now is when I exited that last restaurant, it was for me, it was another one of those like, okay, hold on a minute. What's next? Yeah, I'm going to do this. I come to my office, it's me. Everyone that works and that supports me is subcontracted, CPAs, all these other people. And so that aha moment now for me is like, hey, I love serving people. I love helping people. That's why all the businesses I was in were all customer service oriented. And now I can serve other entrepreneurs. I can serve business owners. I mean, I have clients that maybe can't afford to pay me right now. I'm still going to give them the time of day. I'm still going to spend a couple hours a week with them because that's me giving back, right?
I
And
love that.
I love it. I mean, I had an experience last week that we might get into, but yeah, I love doing that, and I love giving back. And the podcast, for example, is a way for me to give back. If someone can listen to my podcast and hear a story, hear an experience that inspires them or motivates them or gives them hope, then awesome. Sitting here talking to you, if someone is going to listen to this and get a nugget from my story, if they, whether it's about the SEC or about religion or about building a business or whatever, then that makes that makes my soul happy. So that's my motivation right now. I'm getting into public speaking. I love public speaking. I'm not very good at it, but I'm working on it. I have a coach that's helped me become a better public speaker. And if my message, if I can stand in front of a group of people for 20, 30 minutes, an hour, and entertain them and teach them some principles that they can walk out of that room and say, "Wow, that was cool. I took some notes and I learned some things." Then that satisfies me, right? So yeah, those aha moments came, and I think that's what's led me to where I am today.
Yeah, that's amazing. One thing that I like though is you talked about, you sold the last restaurant, you talked about the exit of the other businesses. What people need to really understand that are listening, awareness and resilience are two factors that are right in your DNA, Chris.
Hmm.
You had the awareness. Yes, you got back into it. You liked not having as many employees, and you got back into that same circumstance. Awareness, and then the resilience to understand that, oh my goodness, look what I've done. I've done it to myself again. And
Yeah.
on top of that, you're sharing it with people. Most people don't, they hide. They don't tell people their secrets so they can serve. Your whole journey in life, in my opinion, God bless me to be alive. My duty and responsibility is to serve me so I'm healthy, physically health, nutritional health, mental health, so that I can go out every day. So when I wake up in the morning, I'm blessed. Thank you, Lord. Now I get to go out and serve. You let me be alive another day. I'm going to go out and serve others. It's going to give me what you talked about. It makes you feel good. I call it the warm and fuzzies. I'm
Yeah,
feeding
I like
my
that.
soul. I'm feeling my brain. I'm feeling my energy, and I'm serving others, right? And by serving others, God doesn't always give me or anybody what we want. You still have trials and tribulations, but it's never forgotten, ever. It's in time. That family, you may not know the impact of you speaking on the stage like you're talking about, because I speak on stage. So you got that impact of that. I do workshops, I do different videos, I do different things. We don't always know what the little ripple effects of that pebble in the water is going to do. So
Yeah.
good for you.
And let me tell one more story real quick about that.
Sure, go for it.
Um,
Yeah.
when construction was going great, you remember the extreme makeover, thing that was
Yeah.
going on. It was all over TV.
Yeah.
So I decided one Christmas that I had a neighbor, a young couple who had a couple young kids who had just moved into our community, who bought an old home, and they were in the process of remodeling it and fixing it up. He was an electrical contractor, and good family, hardworking. They were doing a great job. Well, in the middle of their remodel, he lost his job, and they couldn't finish their house. They were living in the basement. They couldn't get their house finished. Now, and that was like that for 6 or 7 months. And I knew him. Like I said, he lived in my community. Well, he got another job, but he was working out of town and just couldn't get the job done and couldn't get the home finished for his family to move into it. So I decided that I would rally my resources and my subcontractors, my suppliers, and we were going to finish his home for him. And because that extreme makeover thing was happening, we did that. We flew him to Disneyland for a week, and in that week's time, we completely just worked 24 hours, 7 days a week. We turned that house over around. We fixed that house. We made it nicer than he ever thought it would be. We put a Christmas tree. It was around Christmas time. We filled the house with presents. We filled the house with furniture, and everyone in my circle just pitched in. And so we did what I called the Christmas house. And the news showed up. We did the whole move that bus. The family saw their new home. I mean, it was just awesome, right? It was just, in fact, the producers of Extreme Makeover contacted
Yeah.
me because they got wind of it and said, "Why did you do that?" And I said, "Well, I was watching your show and I thought, yeah, let's do it." And we did it. And I did for 4 years in a row. I did that for a different family. And some were, I mean, they're pretty big remodel projects, but every year my trades and my subcontractors would come to me and say, "Hey, are we doing another one? Are we doing another one? Are we doing another one?" I remember sitting in the bank in 2009, working out. Anyone that's had trouble with the bank, you know that there's a workout, right? You go in, you sit down with the banker, and fortunately, the banker and I were good friends. We had a relationship, and that's a huge piece of advice for any business owner. Is you when I say who's your banker, I want you to give me a name, not, oh, it's Central Bank or oh, it's whatever bank. I said, no, I want you to give me a name because you have to have a relationship with your bank. So I remember sitting in that bank, and her name's Vicky Curtis, and she had been my banker for years. And we were talking about this one big, I think I had like $1 million loan with the bank that I was doing this subdivision, and it was hard. And I said, man, I've done so much for other people, and the money I've put into building other people's homes and doing these Christmas houses, and I said something just kind of tongue in cheek. I said, "Man, I wish I had some of that money back." And she looked at me and said, "Chris," she said, "You know what? We've watched you do that for the last 4 or 5 years. We know who you are. And the reason why we're sitting here talking to you right now and working this out is because of karma. You said it earlier, Dwight, karma. They said, we saw what you did. We know how much you invested in the community. And right now, we're here having this conversation because that's who you are and we know it. And so that was a good life lesson for me right there that, karma is real, right? You do good, you cast out your whatever, and it comes back, and I still live in that community. I still drive by those homes, and it warms my heart every time I drive by. There's this great family down the road, 7 kids, great, awesome people. They still live in that house. They still love that house. every time I run into them, they say, Chris, oh, Chris, they give me a hug because, 20 years ago I remodeled their house for Christmas. And that's huge. I mean, talk about warm fuzzies, Dwight. It's hugely
Oh,
warm and fuzzy.
absolutely. Oh,
Uh-huh. So,
absolutely.
so yeah, but I remember that conversation with the banker. Vicky Curtis said, Chris, stop thinking that way because it is paying you dividends right now sitting in this bank. And I said, awesome. Thanks, Vicky. Can you make that $1 million go away? It didn't happen.
Oh yeah, that would be. Oh my goodness, what a story!
And they're
And
still my
it is
banker.
true.
They're still my banker.
It's true though.
It's not Vicky, it's Cynthia. And I know I can call Cynthia, if something's weird in my account, she'll call me ahead of time and say, Chris, there's something weird in your account. So I still have, when someone says, who's your banker? I say it's Cynthia Harward down at Central Bank, right? I have her cell phone. I can text her. I can ask for help. I can ask questions. It's amazing. Having a banker and having a relationship with that banker is so important. So important.
And I will have an addition on that as being a financial educator and planner. Have a good relationship with that person, right?
Yes.
I'm
Yeah.
telling you, right? They can, if they're somebody with experience and value, like I'm a serial entrepreneur too, every business I owned, I brought information, knowledge, right? Character building moments, highs and lows into the new business and used it as an awareness piece to get better, right? So I'm a culmination of all my clients of 25 year. I'm a culmination of my own life experiences going from being married to a joint custody dad to a full-time dad on my kids to them moving when they were younger to understanding all of that. So when I say you need to know your financial person, they if they're not just transactional, because bankers can be transactional.
Yeah.
Not everybody's going to be like Chris is talking about. I'm sorry, because I know a lot of bankers too. Find that banker and that bank that is about relationships. Find that financial person that can help you learn how to save first, live off the difference, and goal set and get your life in order, which is what I do. Find that person. Interview multiple people. Get what connects with you and listen to your body. Listen to that pit in your stomach.
Yeah.
Inappropriate sentences from somebody, inappropriate jokes or whatever can be a sign. So I'll get
Yeah.
off that soapbox, but I'm thank you for sharing that. I do agree with you. You need to know your person, but interview lots.
Yeah.
Don't
Yeah. Yeah.
don't just take the first person that's got a shiny bauble that they're attracting you with. Oh, like back in the day here, you get a free. Nowadays it's get a free iPhone or get a free this or that. Come set up your
Yeah.
accounts,
Yeah.
whatever.
No. Yeah.
One
Yeah.
time it was a 4 slice toaster, and before that it was a two.
Yeah, yeah. And you brought it up. You said, listen to your gut. Like we have this innate this instinct in us, and I can tell stories about not going with my gut and it bit me in the butt. That kind of rhymed, didn't it? I should
Yeah,
yeah, that rhymed. Because I was going to say bit me in the ass, but I'm not sure if this is
I don't. That
appropriate.
what I, I take care of all that. Don't worry
Yeah,
about it. And you know what? That's not explicit. There's a
yeah,
lot
that's
worse
not bad.
words than
That's
that.
not bad.
Yeah. So I got no
Yeah,
issues with
so
that.
yeah, go with the gut. Just listen to it. And sometimes the shiny object is powerful, and sometimes it's strong. But when your gut says walk away, because and sometimes you never know. Sometimes you never know why you walked away, but also, but you got to do it. You got to follow it. Listen to the gut for sure.
Absolutely. So we're going to go on to the next thing. We're running
Okay.
out of time here. What a great conversation. And we're not even halfway through,
Ah,
unfortunately. And I'm going to encapsulate it down. Trust me. I've
okay.
done this
I
a
believe
while.
you. I believe you.
So you survived cancer and then went on to finish 2 Ironmans. Wow, that's amazing. I have a hard time. I can do 5K for Americans, that's 3 miles, right? But I
Yeah.
don't know if I could do that. So I want to ask you about both. I believe they're connected.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, what did the cancer diagnosis strip away, and what did training for and finishing those Ironmans put back?
Okay, so let's work on the timeline a little bit.
Yeah.
The Ironman, the whole triathlon thing started after that 08, 09 debacle.
Okay.
And so training for Ironman happened right after that. And that was an opportunity to just right my mind. Like
Oh, okay.
I had a coach, an Ironman coach, and he there, man, this is this great big long story all by itself, but I'll try and give you the abridged version. But there was things that he would give me a workout, a weekly workout regimen, and so every day I would look at the workout and I'd go do it. Well, I am not a runner. If you can't tell, but I'm a big guy. I'm 235 pounds. I don't know how many kilograms that is, but I was a football player. I was never a runner. So for me to even be out there running, my body had no business doing that. Well, every week he'd give me something like, okay, go run 2 miles. And I would say, wow, I've never run 2 miles before, but I'd go run 2 miles. And then, the next week is, okay, go run 4 miles. And I'd be like, wow, I never ran 4 miles before, but I ran two, so I'll go run four. And so that whole journey that took 6 months to prepare me for an Ironman was just that. Every day I was doing something that I'd never done before. This camera situation. Okay. And I talk with my hands a lot, you can tell. But every day I was doing something I'd never done before. Every day I was having a little victory. Hey, Chris, go swim for a half hour laps. I've never done that before, but I did it. So my mindset completely shifted. I mean, I've always been pretty optimistic. I've always been very persistent. But this was a journey of, in order for me to be able to accomplish 12 hours of exercise in one day, which is what the Ironman ended up being, it was a mindset shift. And that Ironman training got me there. I have a whole keynote that I give about how Ironman and my mindset it was a lifeline, right? So then when cancer came along, I was in the best shape of my life. I had just finished my second Ironman, and I was getting ready to sign up for my third Ironman, which was I figured in my life I would do an Ironman every other year. So I would do a whole bunch of stuff in between. I would do some half Ironmans, but every other year I'd do an Ironman. So I'm getting ready to sign up for my third Ironman. I'm trying to decide which one I want to do. I'm training hard. I was in the kind of shape, Dwight, that if on Friday night, if a friend of mine called me up and said, "Hey, we're going to go run a half marathon tomorrow," great, let's do it. I didn't have to train for it. I could go run a half marathon because that's the kind of shape I was in. And then all of a sudden, the cancer came, and I'm lucky that I caught it early. I kind of feel like an imposter by saying I am a cancer survivor because I know people have it a lot worse. I lost a very, very good friend a couple years ago to breast cancer, and it was a battle, right? And so for me, as I mentioned, I feel like a little bit of an imposter to say I'm a cancer survivor because I caught it early. I had time to research the treatment options. I had the ability to decide what my treatment plan would be, and I was able to do it, and I was able to conquer it. I was able to overcome it, and I was lucky enough that I never let it defeat me mentally because I just did two Ironmans. I went from I couldn't run a mile to running a marathon after biking 112 miles and swimming 2.4 miles. And so for me, that was part of my journey. It was just the whole Ironman, the mindset, and then cancer. I can do that. I can do that. And I was lucky that I was able to get through it, and I didn't have to do what some people do when it comes to dealing with cancer because cancer's a bitch, and the cancer is a respecter of no person. It'll get you, and you don't have a choice. And I'm very fortunate that for me, I was able to conquer it, and it didn't defeat me in any way. It didn't defeat me physically. It didn't defeat me mentally, and I was able to move on from that.
And that's fantastic. We could go into more depth of that because I've experienced way more than one person suffering and dying from cancer, especially
Yeah.
because of clients and obviously big family. My dad's one of 18 kids, my mom's one of nine. So yeah, I have
Wow.
a lot of relatives.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so cancer is yeah, we could go on and on about that, but I want to cover a couple more seconds and I want to try to wrap it up here by 20 after so you can go on to your next call.
Appreciate it.
Um, You founded Bootstraps and Battle Scars and Founders Exchange because you saw entrepreneurs trying to build in isolation, wearing armor they couldn't afford to wear. What does dropping that armor actually cost somebody?
Well, I'll tell you what, it's as an entrepreneur, and you can relate to this, and a lot of people can relate to this. It's very lonely at the top, right? It's very lonely at the top. And we have to put on this facade. We throw on this armor and we say, look, we got this. We're confident. It's going to happen. We're going to make it happen. Follow me. Let's go into battle and let's win. But there's times when every entrepreneur has to take that armor off and just, you know, decompress. And so I'm a firm believer in that. And the challenge is that as entrepreneurs and business owners, who do we talk to about stuff like that? Who do we, there's some stuff out there that's hard. You can't talk to your employees about it. Yeah, we can edit that out. You can't talk to your employees about it. You can't talk to your partners about it. You can't talk to sometimes you can't even talk to your spouse about it. So the Founders Exchange is a place that we created. It's a mastermind. It's very high disciplined. And it's a place where we create a very safe area for entrepreneurs and business owners who can come in and talk about the hard stuff and they can get support. We don't share advice. We only share experiences. So we talk about, hey, someone comes into the group and says, man, I'm really struggling with this employee. Here's what's going on. I don't know what to do. We've all had employees that we struggle with. We've all had similar experiences. So we share that experience and help give them some encouragement and some ideas of how to move on. So Bootstraps and Battle Scars is really designed to help people hear the stories, hear the bootstrapping, hear about the battle scars and the lessons learned. And Founders Exchange is that safe place where entrepreneurs can come in and really dig deep and talk about the hard stuff. And once again, that's me giving back. That's me serving. That's me providing an opportunity for owners and founders and entrepreneurs to let down their armor once in a while, go into a safe place, then they walk out of that room, they put it back on, and they get back to work. And that's been a lot of fun. It's been a lot of fun. I've
That's
been an
a,
opportunity. It's served me over the years, and now I'm helping by introducing that to other people to help serve them as well.
and that's amazing. And on top of that, we don't have a lot of time to talk about it, but you have a brand new podcast that
Yeah.
you released in November, I believe you said.
Yes.
So I'll make sure that I put some of that in the show notes too, so people can come check out your podcast as
Yeah.
well.
And you are the podcast master, Dwight. I mean, I think you said I'm number 291.
Yes.
Do I get a trophy for that? I should get a little trophy or a plaque.
To
291.
The lady I interviewed, Dr. Lorette, the chick that's 290, she gets that. Sorry. Sorry,
Ah,
I'll
I
take out
missed it.
that
I
word.
missed it.
The
The
woman, not
woman.
chick. Yeah, because nowadays I can't. Yeah.
No, careful. We don't want to
I
get
get,
we don't want to get canceled, Dwight. It's too early for that.
yeah, too
Yeah.
much cancel culture, right?
Yeah. But I
We
did. I
can't,
started this podcast and it's fun. I've had so much fun with it. We
it
just
is a
recorded.
blast.
Oh yeah, we recorded episode 13
13.
last week.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm gonna keep going. I love it. It's fun. Yeah.
Awesome. Awesome. Maybe I'll be gracing your podcast stage if I'm worthy, but we'll
I
talk
might
about
I
that
might
another
make you
time.
two nine I might make you my 292 just to
Oh,
make
you're
a
gonna,
point.
so I gotta wait a few years. Holy,
Yeah. Yeah.
that hurts
Yeah.
right here.
We'll see if we can expedite that for you.
Chris, if you could leave one message with an entrepreneur or person listening right now who is in the middle of their hardest chapter, the one where quitting would honestly make sense, what would you want them to hear? What would you tell them about giving a heck and never giving up?
Dwight, I have had failure. I have been at the bottom. I've been knocked down. And one of the things that always gets me through those moments is realizing that it's temporary. It is temporary, it's not permanent, and there's only one direction to go when you're at the bottom, and that is up. And so you don't give up, you keep fighting, you keep doing, and you keep going because it is temporary. And I promise, I've been down, I've been low. We all know people that have hit rock bottom and have clawed themselves back. And so, yeah, just look at failure as a learning experience. It's temporary and move ahead. Keep going.
That's a great message. So I can respect your time. The last thing I need to know is what's the best way for people to reach out to you?
Hmm. Well, I've got this fancy website on the interweb. Have you heard of it? It's kind of a new thing. It's called Bootstraps and Battle Scars. It's bootstrapsandbattlescars.com. You can access some of my podcasts on there. You can connect with me, contact me. You can find all my social media login or tags or whatever that is. And yeah, that's it. That's the place. And I love talking to people. I love learning about people. I love helping people. So if anyone feels inspired or motivated or could use a little whatever, happy to help out. I'm writing a couple little ebooks right now, so I'll put those on the website so people can access them. And yeah, I'm easy to get a hold of, and I love to talk to people.
That's awesome. For those new to the Give a Heck podcast, go to giveaheck.com. Go to the podcast tab at the top. You will see scroll down, you'll see a picture of Chris as well as chapter summaries, details of all his social media, his website that he mentioned, which by the way is actually a pretty nice website. I did check it out. Yeah, and make sure that don't just let this drop. Go in there, click on it, add him as a friend, as a connection on social media. You can check out the chapter summaries. If there was one section that really resonated with you and you don't want to listen to the whole show, you can go and look at specific segments. It'll be broken down. I ensure that's done. And for those that are, because I do have some people that love it, the full unedited transcript will be there as well. So you can go through and look at it. So, Chris, any last comments you'd like to say before I wrap up the show?
Dwight, this has been great. I appreciate you giving me the time. I feel honored to be on your podcast. And entrepreneurship is what makes the world go round. Like every business, every company that you could possibly imagine started somewhere with someone who had a vision or had an idea, and they acted on it and they went after it. And like Thomas Edison, there's a famous story about Thomas Edison. How many times did he fail in inventing the light bulb? It took him 10,000 tries before he got it right, so he never failed once. He just learned 10,000 ways to not do it. And so I think entrepreneurship is great. And if you have an idea, have a vision, have a way of doing something different or doing something better, then go after it. Get after it. And there's so many places you can learn and just keep learning and be successful. And it'll be worth it.
Fantastic. Thank you for that last message. So again, Chris, thank you for the honesty, the humor, and for bringing every scar into the conversation without flinching. That is rare. And our audience felt it, and I know they appreciate it like I do. For everyone listening today, I want you to take something away from this conversation beyond the business lessons. Those are real and worth applying. What strikes me the most about Chris is not their awards or their portfolio or the Ironman finishes. It's the fact that he turned every scar into something useful, not just for himself, but for the people who come after him. That is what experience in the hands of someone genuinely committed to others looks like. That's what service looks like. Every hard chapter you have lived through is not wasted. It is material. The question is whether you're willing to use it and whether you're willing to stop carrying it alone. If today resonated with you, go find Chris and continue the conversation. As I mentioned, go to giveaheck.com. To the listeners and viewers, thank you so much for investing time with us today. We do not take that lightly. If this episode resonated with you, please share it. When you share an episode, it helps this message reach more people so they too can give a heck and live with purpose and intention. Please subscribe to the Give a Heck podcast on your favorite platform and leave a comment or review. It helps the show grow and allows more people to discover conversations that challenge them to step up and live intentionally. Until next time, live life on purpose, not by accident. And remember, it's never too late to give a heck.
Thank you for taking time out of your day and listening to Give a Heck. If you find value, I'd appreciate you sharing with your friends and family so they too can learn how to live life on purpose, not by accident. So you do not miss the next episode, please subscribe on your favorite podcast platform and please also post a review. I look forward to reading your comments. This has been Dwight Heck. If you want to check out other podcast episodes or today's show notes, please check out my website, giveaheck.com. And until next time, together let us all strive to give a heck.